This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Let me see, the Talkstar Radio Network, Radio X across Europe, and TalkStream Live. If you'd like to send us an email, studio@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our main website where you can find out what we're doing, what we have done, what we intend on doing at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Before I get to my guest this hour, one quick, very simple question. All right. How would you like to be part of UFO history? That's all I'm going to say. And if you would like to be part of UFO history, go to www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. That's www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. You know, Christmas is right around the corner. I guess I don't have to tell you that. There's enough Christmas jingles and enough advertising all over the place. You can't go down a street where there's stores without seeing signs for Christmas. I've got 9 grandchildren. I have 6 children. Christmas has always been a very special kind of a year around our household. But like many people, at times Christmas can be stressful. So we've asked a stress expert to join us this hour. Rich Wessenberg is going to join us to talk about a very stressful Christmas resiliency and basically how we can reduce some of this stress. We're going to be talking about treasures of the believing heart this hour. And first of all, Rich, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show with us tonight. And my gosh, you had enough stress of your own today just getting to your hotel.
I did, Rob. You know, it's always great when you can practically apply what you talk about. So when you walk the talk, it makes it a lot easier.
Why do you think, Rich, in the year 2016, when everything is much more technologically advanced, that the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, or whatever the holiday is, are more stressful than ever?
You know, I think there's so much buildup and hype in our day and time. Mm-hmm. Maybe things were simpler in other eras. But today, we're kind of in an era of instant gratification. But at the end of the day, some things just never change, like stress. What I'm really saying, there's a lot of different forms to it, but there was stress also in the old days. But I think today there's just so much more coming at us. It's not just a matter of going to the store and maybe shopping for something. Now we've got many alternatives. We can go online. Mm-hmm. We've got the Black Friday now. We've got all these different things. And really, I think what causes the stress is we lose sight of really the reasons why we're doing the things we're doing. And I think we can get caught up in the hype just like anything else. And so these things, in essence, are a temptation to us, and we just got to really learn how to manage these things that tug at our hearts.
It seems that the holidays have become open-door windows of opportunity for retailers. And, Black Friday, God, I remember when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a Black Friday sale. There weren't this sale, that sale, this sale, that sale. Things seem to be a lot more civilized back then in the good old days. And yet, with all these new technological advances like you were talking about, I wouldn't imagine the stress factor should be so high. And yet, apparently, it's higher than it was then in the good old days.
So true. And it's taken its toll on the individuals, too.
Mm-hmm.
We really see a lot of high incidences of depression. Really terrible things can happen. But I think at the end of the day, we've seen over time that the buildup of Christmas in this time of year, for a lot of people, has just been such a, like I said, the buildup to it, and then high expectations. And I think really all of this can lead to, if we're not really living a balanced heart, mm-hmm. and keeping things in moderation, we just go too extreme. And that's like the Black Friday situations, or you see some of these movies. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they're battling through the door to get this special doll for the kid. And these kinds of things, it's really silliness, but we can get caught up in it. It's all of us can get tempted down these roads. And I think that's where the key is that, really what should be our first motivation and why we're doing the things we're doing, so we don't get caught up in looking that foolish.
Rich, stand by. We've got to take our first break. X-Zone Nation. Rich Wessenberg is our very special guest. He's a resilient expert and the author of the world best-selling book, Treasures of the Believing Heart. And if you'd like to find out more about Rich, www.tatepublishing.com/bookstore. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise Retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Rich Wessenberg is our special guest. His website is treasuresofthebelievingheart.tateauthor.com, and he is the author of Treasures of the Bleeding Heart. Rich, what was your inspiration to write this great book?
Well, when I first started putting this together, I was teaching my kids. As a former minister, my wife and I, it was just our habits at night when we put our kids down for bed to give them a lesson from the Bible. But my background also in marketing and business was a topic that I've always been interested was believing. And so I'd end up teaching my kids with little lessons and also put something in about believing. And as that journey was going on, Rob, I ended up learning a lot more than I ever knew about this as I was working with my kids. And I also would train salespeople. And so that kind of set the framework. And I was like, man, I got to sit down and write all this down. And through that journey, what made it really special, Rob, was every chapter in my book is really something new I learned about believing that I never knew before. And like the other segments, that relationship of core values to our outcomes, core values, principles, purpose, that is, to me, is what has been an exciting revelation in seeing the greatness of what believing can play in our lives.
My personal belief is that belief is the strongest power in the universe. If you believe in something, it will happen.
Well, so true. And I've studied so many books on selling, on positive thinking. Dale Carnegie, one of my favorite all times. I would just work the heck out of underline every sentence he wrote in the book. But also my journey, I learned studying biblical principle, and I saw that a lot of, really, every time a truth at work, like you said, if you believe, it's going to happen. And I'm like, yep, Rob, that's documented. That's a biblical principle documented back since antiquity. And I think that's what makes my book special. That's what's kind of underscored me as a resiliency expert, in that believing, how big a role that plays in our lives. And if you do believe, it is a law, positively or negatively. And so we want to draw, obviously, the positive side, but we also want to be aware of the negative sides of it and take full advantage to live the kind of life we want to live.
Rich, besides getting a copy of your book, which I hope everybody does, how can people listening tonight who find themselves on the negative side of life, how can you help them to get to the other side?
Well, I would tell them that one of the great truths biblically is the goodness and being thankful, and really deeper even, the goodness of God is what changes a person's heart. We've got to be thankful and appreciative, and that's where it's got to start in our journey for the actual functioning of our hearts. if we're so crowded with disappointment, with failure, and like we talked about previously, if we're just so concentrated on ourselves, or we're looking at others and saying, man, I wish I was that person, and look at that, and woe is me. That's not how it rolls, really. Like you said before, it's a law. And so what we need to recognize is that all I need to do is change on my inside. And how to get over that hump is start thinking, like we said, positively. To me, it'd be like recognizing that, good things can happen. And that, not everybody is evil in this world. There are good people.
Yeah.
And then that journey starts to open up the individual, and you start trusting, and you start giving, and doors of opportunity, which I believe are spiritual, that I believe life is spiritual, meant to be lived by believing. And then we see power start even taking greater opportunities where we never thought we'd go before.
Do you think there are people listening tonight who are afraid that they would be successful, and that would create a whole new list of challenges for them that they just don't think they're ready for?
I do. And fear has its so many ways and shapes and forms, the fear of success. But I think the key would be is, we want to, God would never give us more than we couldn't handle, but some people sometimes do fail with success.
Yeah.
And I think really it's got to come back to, staying balanced. Even if we don't have success, we've got to have moderation in all things. Too much of anything can destroy you. And so success, taking it in perspective, taking in hand of what we could do. And I think the greater part of success is that really, I always looked at as better than any take-home paycheck, was when somebody else looked at me and said, thank you. I'm better for that. Thank you. This really helped me out. And when we help another individual on this planet, we to me, Rob, that is where people then who are on the receiving end of it and dealing with success, to me, that's going to keep them grounded from getting into all the problems that success can bring.
One of the saddest things that I've learned over the many years that I've had the opportunity of speaking to different people around the world is that they look at failure as the end of their attempt. And I've always looked at failure as a lesson to success.
Oh, so true. It's like the old poem, it's the rocks in the brook that make the brook sing. I love that phrase, even trial and error.
Yeah.
We've got to try things out. We cannot be afraid. Fear causes paralysis. And the fear, again, of, problems, stress, failure. We can't live our lives that way. And at the same time, we can live with moderation, though, and not put ourselves in harm's way. But the thing that, getting back to is that, hey, you know what? It's all about trying to reach our full potential, what we can be in this lifetime. And so few people ever really blossom in what their calling is to do. And that's really what we want to do, is walk out there and let our own individual light shine, but not from an egotistical perspective, but from a perspective that leads our life into significance. That, hey, you know what? If it was making a little flower area in a park and that was the best impact you made on that in this world, then that's beautiful. It's not the grandness of the thing.
That's right.
It's where your heart was at in what you did.
And so many people miss that very simple message in life. And another favorite saying of mine is, life is simple, humans complicated.
So true. We can overthink everything, can't we?
We sure can. And that is something that many, many people do. I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. Well, there's got to be something wrong with it. It's too simple. The answer can't be that simple. Like, does 1 and 1 really equal 2? And come on. The answers are right in front of us. The world is right in front of us. The examples are right in front of us. The wonders are right in front of us. All we have to do is open our eyes, open our hearts, and say, wow, what's next?
So true. The world is such a beautiful place, a great opportunity. And the people that are in it, we take the time to learn from others and give to others. Yes, this is going to be a path where we're going to grow as individuals, and at the same time, we're going to receive back, getting the opportunity to receive things that we may never even encountered on. And so life is an exciting journey that we don't want to, be fearful about, but walk out in it and make every moment count.
Speaking about life being an interesting journey, what's up next for you, Rich? What do you got planned?
Well, I definitely have been working on another book, and that has been an aspect for me outside of the media work that I've done. This holiday time keeps me extremely busy with book signings and doing shows like this. But I really look forward to getting that completed, looking at taking it even deeper from what I started with the first book. Obviously, with social media, I've had great opportunities around the world at different churches, be it in religious seminars where my book is being used. And also, one of the biggest things that happened this year was a church out in Kenya where they had a youth leadership weekend, and they just taught from every chapter of my book. And so, boy, it's been an exciting ride, and I just like the things we talked about. My heart is to try to help and share with the abilities that I've learned. And you know what, Rob, spending time with just a great person like yourself, I learn and grow, and together we can help others along the way.
And I by you, my friend. Let our listeners know where they can get your book, and share words of wisdom. What are your final thoughts for the X-Zone Nation tonight, Rich?
You bet. You can get my book. You mentioned the website already, but you can get it online. If you're a shopper online, Amazon, Wordery, it's at Christian Book. It's even, in electronic ebook form. You can also, if you're in the United States, any bookstore you can walk into and you can order it if it's not already on the shelf. But the words of wisdom that I'd like to really say during this holiday time is, the holidays are a beautiful time. And we've learned, through this time of year of giving, and I love that principle of giving. Biblically, giving is receiving. God gave His only begotten Son. And to me, I look at these things of giving, and one of the great principles is give with a cheerful heart, not out of necessity, not because you owed it to somebody, but because you just wanted to help somebody else. To me, that's going to make the holidays special. And you know what? At the end of the day, like you said, great power and belief. You're going to get something on the receiving end back that you never saw coming. And that's what really keeps, that extra little spark, that little extra hop, that little extra grin you have on your face when you show up the next day to face this world.
Rich, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. A great pleasure talking to you and your family, from our family and the X-Zone Nation. A very Merry Christmas, and may you all be blessed with smiles, happiness, love, and joy.
Thank you, Rob. God's blessings to you and your family and all those wonderful grandchildren. You are a mighty man, blessed so mightily.
Thank you, my friend. Take care, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Rob.
X-Zone Nation, Rich Wessenberg has been our guest this hour. And if you'd like to get a copy of Rich's book, Treasures of the Believing Heart.tateauthor.com.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
Right, Exonation. Rich Wessenberg is our special guest this hour. He's the author of Treasures of the Believing Heart. He is a resiliency expert, and his website is www.treasuresofthebelievingheart.tateauthor.com. Rich, for those people who may not really understand stress, how can stress affect our lives?
Well, to me, looking at it from even the perspective of my book, which Treasures of the Believing Heart is a focus and study on core values, principles, and purpose. A lot of it, stress, to me, is also you could put in the form of temptation. But, when we look at stress, it can come from ourselves and it can come from others. And again, to me, it's not so much what's happening on the outside, it's what we're registering on the inside and how we deal with it on the inside. And so to me, when we talk about stress, it's how are we built on the inside to handle the things coming at us? And that's where I see that, one of the phrases in my book is all our successes and failures are linked to the kind of treasures found in the believing heart. And a wise man once said, clean the inside of the cup, that the outside may be clean also. And so the point is that when we understand about what are the great core values that we could be having in our hearts to handle stress, these outside pressures, so when they do come at us, we're actually able to continue forward with the things we want to do instead of being paralyzed and maybe react in ways we wouldn't because of the outside influence. And so the greatest treasure, chapter 2 of my book, is love, more specifically the love of God. And when we have love as a great treasure, to me, Rob, that's where something that, we great songs have been written about love, great poems. I've gotten the songs Jackie D. Shannon wrote, Put a Little Love in Your Heart. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. I don't know if you remember that oldie.
I sure do.
But to me, when we really bring love into the picture, and because we think of that as almost being weak or soft, but really that could be nothing farther than the truth. That's what's going to cast out fear. That's what's going to energize great power in our lives. And so that's what I try to bring to the surface. And so we can not so much, it's not the outside, we're not circumstance controlled, but we're conditioned by our own values and principles and truths.
So how do we go about changing that so that we're not as stressed as we are?
Well, I think what we have to do is really, prepare our own hearts. Treasures of the Believing Heart is also about trying to develop peacefulness in our hearts and our lives. Now, that doesn't mean that if I'm at work or I'm being busy, I can't be peaceful. But the thing is that, like we're talking about the holiday stress and all these things, that, yeah, these are environments that are around us, but like I said, that our values, the things that are inside the cup, inside our hearts, they don't change. And we don't compromise on them. And so what I'm saying is for example, the holidays, we're getting tugged at our hearts in so many different ways to please others. And that's a good thing. God loves a cheerful giver. The key is we don't want to be a stressed out giver. And I think that's the key is we've got to recognize when we're getting pulled too thin. And that's just a self checkup from the neck up. But sometimes you can find it in when, all of a sudden you're running so thin and you make poor decision-making processes. We were talking here, I had a drive through the blizzard here today in old Wyoming, and yet I was going to stay true to applying good principles of driving and not compromise. And if there was a bad situation, hey, you know what? I'm going to slow down. And when we violate principle, realize there are consequences. So, Rob, I think it's coming back to some of the fundamentals that we do know, but what I try to bring about too is that, hey, you know what? Really, it's our core values at the end of the day that are writing the destiny of our lives.
How can our personality help us grieve with unexpected loss then?
Well, when we have unexpected loss, especially when you talk about the holidays, boy, that can really, really tug at your hearts. And so to me, when we look at personality, there's a lot of us who have strong personalities and a lot of different personalities. I think the thing is to recognize the things that we are good at. When it comes to personal loss, boy, there's just nothing, especially if it's a close loved one, that really can set you off track. And I think, we as individuals have to realize that life has challenges out there. In the context we're talking stress, and that, we realize that, hey, part of my personality may be to react a certain way, but at the end of the day, my values are going to keep me in check. And so I think they play a role, but at the same time, it's an understanding that we don't have to always ride on our abilities and our personality, but that we can stay true to values and how we respond to situations, and instead of totally, maybe getting into actions and saying things that we really didn't mean in very, extreme circumstances.
You think about the holidays, you think of family, you think of togetherness, you think of that family meal, opening up Christmas gifts under the Christmas tree, watching the face of the children as they anticipate what Santa Claus brought them. But there's the other side of the coin, that there are many people who are alone at these times of the year, who have gone through family problems where mom and dad are separated. How do we cope with that, Rich?
Well, that's where I really think, and it kind of almost ties back to that personality situation. We could all learn from being an optimistic personality, and no doubt those are tough situations, and they're real situations. Yeah. I even personally, I lived through some of that in my childhood, having parents separate and divorce young. And what I do think is that, one of the key aspects is having a really foundational understanding of the purpose of our lives. Purpose really gives us something to shoot for. And in the end of the day, it's kind of tied in with hope, and that, hey, you know what? Whatever we find ourselves, if we're alone, or, we're not around with our loved ones. If somebody's serving in the military and out in another place, one of the key things that you can always do is you can always try to give and help others. And I think that's one of the big lessons, and that's even what I try to point out in my book, is that, we're not just here to always please ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take the focus off yourself, you find that your problems become much smaller. And I think, Rob, that's one of the key aspects as we reach forward with good works. And it could be the smallest thing to helping maybe an elderly lady walk from her car on a icy path to the grocery store to, you buy that gift. Or that neighborhood in the house, in the neighborhood, this family is struggling, and you just went out of their way. They didn't even ask, and you bought a couple of kids a gift. That's where I see the power, love's power, taking force into our communities and making them stronger, and at the same time making our individuals stronger as they act and do these kind of good works.
Over the years, traditionally, these virtues and values were taught in school as well as at home and in the church. But it seems that as we've become so technological savvy, a lot of these values and virtues have been taught less and less and less.
Yeah, and that's kind of purpose I wrote this book. I initially wrote it for my kids,
mm-hmm.
and I think there's truth to that because we see so many things around us that can dazzle the eyes, and there's so many people with great abilities, and we, like you say, the media, the technology, it can really take the focus off these simple values. But I would say that a lot of people at the end of the day find themselves in our communities, that these doors of opportunity are there. Maybe they're not taught as much as we'd like to be, but I would say that anybody can always have the opportunity to give of themselves, give of their time, give of their plurality. And like you said, I think, the self-gratification aspect, that's the thing that I think with all the technology. It's, hey, I'm going to sit at this game and play this Game Boy for hours and hours where, probably our era and your era before mine, we went out with all the kids and played.
That's right.
There was more social skills involved. And I think that ties into it, Rob, that we get isolated. And but I do see the cycle where people do get lonely, and they eventually start reaching out and getting out of their shells.
Yeah, you've got Christmas time that is lonely for so many people who are alone because of one event in their lives or many others. Maybe there was someone that they were very close to during their lives who they lost, and their memories are of the Christmas before where they were spending time with this person. Mom and dad, like you were talking about before, mom and dads have split. Children are separated from either their mother or their father, and in some cases even their siblings. And then we look at what's coming right down the street, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And that's another day for people who are lonely, who get stressed. And it seems that we are just going from one stage to the next. And then people don't realize, Rich, that grief is not only caused by the loss of someone, but grief is caused by the changing of a job, the moving from one place to the next, going from one school to another. We live in a very complex world, a very complicated world that is changing the way that we perceived our own psychology, because our psychology of the me is now being changed into the world of the hour. And this is hard for some people to change.
Well, it's so true. And I think, this is where we as a people looking at these circumstances, and that's where I really think, we've got to look at these situations. And I mentioned this before, the circumstances that can surround us can take a lot of different shapes and forms. But I think, successful individuals who are consistently moving ahead with their lives, and in even situations where they find themselves, like you said, alone, I think these are these opportunities for people to grow, and they're not realizing it. And And that's what's great for them to hear us here on this radio station, that, hey, you know what? I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And I can change. And, that's one great truth also that most people don't recognize with people who have great achievements. They are making adjustments constantly. And I remember, I remember reading your biography and how much you went through to be the great personality and radio legend in the business. But that you just don't do the same thing over and over again.
No.
And you learn, you grow. And so to my point, back to these people that are challenged with all these different circumstances, again, coming back to, hey, you know what? I've got to make a change. I'm sitting here thinking about myself all the time, or I'm stuck in this room. You know what? I could go down to that work kitchen and I could volunteer.
Yeah.
That would be my best point to somebody, is if you got too much time on your hands, there are more than any community to give out and give of your abilities.
Rich, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, Rich Wessenberg is our special guest. He's the author of a great book that I would strongly suggest for anyone as a great Christmas gift, Treasures of the Believing Heart. Rich's website is treasuresofthebelievingheart.tateauthor.com. We'll be back as we wrap up this hour on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right. Transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and I'd like to send out a couple of votes of thanks this hour. I'd like to thank all the nurses and the doctors at the Hamilton General Hospital, Dr. Tam in particular, and I'd also like to thank the doctors and the nurses at the Henderson General Hospital Emergency Ward. Thank you very much. If you're hearing this message, you know why I'm sending it to you, but thank you very much. Exonation, Rich Wessenberg is our guest, and he is a resiliency expert, and he's the author of the worldwide selling book, Treasures of the Believing Heart. Now, Rich's website is treasuresofthebelievingheart.tateauthor.com. Rich, would the amount of different religious philosophies that are now being found throughout North America, does this also play in the stress values that we have? Because, you know, when I was a kid, it was you could say Merry Christmas, you could say Happy Easter, but now, because of the different religious philosophies that are now in the United States and Canada, we're being told, well, you can't say Merry Christmas anymore. It has to be Season's Greetings, and you can't say Happy Easter anymore. It has to be, spring break time. Does this also put stress on people?
Well, I think in some people's situations, again, that, the political correctness of our era, heightened as it is, definitely can play a role into that. And I think the, socially sensitive impacts that we're kind of always cognizant of in this era we're a part of. And not that it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be considerate of others at any other day and time. I think it's just more prevalent. Yeah. And some people who can get stressed out by this particular situation, I think is, you're so worried about what you're going to say. And again, I think really we lose the importance of that. We really do care about people, and people do make mistakes, and we can say the wrong thing, especially if there's a lot of different cultures we're around. But, Rob, I agree with you that it is another area which in a simpler time, we just didn't really, I don't think it came up as prevalent as we're dealing with today.
Well, I've been doing this show for 25 years, and as I was coming into the segment to cue it up, I had to be super careful on what I said and how I said it so I didn't offend anyone. And being in the media, you know this because you're on the Christian radio networks right across the United States and Canada. You just don't know which way to play it anymore.
Well, it's so true, and I think we really have to know our audience in a way. But most people aren't going to study that. And if we're around family and friends for Christmas, but we get out in the public areas, I think, that is going to, make sure we're responding correctly, especially when you brought up all the different religious denominations that can be out there and represented. Not everybody is going to recognize Christmas as the national Christians would look at it. You've got a lot of different people that have a lot of different holidays. And I think the key here is we always got to treat each other with respect. And I think that would be the great thing to know is that whatever we do, and if it's not right, I know the one thing is that when we do it out of the right motivation, out of caring for others, even though we do make a mistake, people are going to help us then pick ourselves back up and address it correctly.
And that's what Christmas is all about.
Well, so true. And that's really what it is. You talk about the brotherhood of man and women, being culturally sensitive. Yeah. Don't want to leave anybody out. And but the thing is we do love one another. We love our neighbors as ourselves. And the Christmas time, the big concepts, I think we can all agree on. Really, when you look at all the mass religions in the world, in my 30 years being involved, is that you can look at probably 98% of all the ethics and moralities are very common, and that we do love one another, and we do, love a higher power, and at the end of the day, we would be there to help somebody else. We'd be taking our coat off to keep somebody else warm.
Yeah.
These are the values that the countries and nations of the world that bonds us together.
Let me ask you this question, Rich. You're in the media. I'm in the media. Do you think that the media has to take some of the responsibility and some of the blame for the heightened sense of political correctness that everybody is feeling these days when it comes to religious philosophies?
Well, there sure is a lot more than in certain segments when you talk about that. That I think in a simpler time, I guess, it just wasn't so many varieties. And I think that could be with our technology because so many voices are being heard, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
That we can learn and be more aware of everybody else's views and their backgrounds. Just last week I was with an Indian tribe. They celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Thanksgiving. I was really surprised to hear all that. And on the Thanksgiving aspect of it and how they did it. And so, to me, it really shows how when we have really general, broad holidays like national holidays, we can be respectful for one another and at the same time have our own personal beliefs.
When I was a kid growing up in the Park Extension area of Montreal, which was the melting pot of Montreal, going to elementary school at Barclay School, I remember our teacher, Miss Bloomfield, who celebrated and taught us about all the different cultures and all the different religious philosophies throughout that year. No matter who or what you are, whether you're Irish, whether you're Pakistani, whether you're Hindu, Punjabi, from Ethiopia, from someplace in Africa, someplace South America, she brought the cultural awareness and the importance of all the different cultures and how they work to make a great society to each and every one of us in grade 3. We celebrated the Hebrew holidays. We celebrated the Christian holidays. We celebrated and were taught on the Islamic holidays and rituals and spiritual beliefs and so on. And I think that this made us a lot stronger as children back then, instead of being alienated from everybody else's culture and belief.
Oh, so true. What a great experience you had, Rob. I know for me it wasn't until I got in college and took a course like world religions and got more involved in that. But I couldn't agree with you more that it does make you stronger. And at the end of the day, to me, we as we learn more about each other, instead of focusing on differences, you find more that you have a lot in common. And that's where I think a lot of the things that are universal, things like love, like respect, like honesty, these are things we all can rally around. And then even if the specific in learning how they celebrate and who they worship and their spirits, all these things. Like I said, I was at the Indian tribe and they talked about the Great Spirit and I learned about their dance. I mean, these are just tremendous things that we all can learn from, and it does make us better, stronger people.
Here we are in the year 2016, and everybody's talking about exploring space, exploring here, going past outside of the solar system. And I figure, well, wait a sec, guys. Let's learn about each other here first. Let's learn about this great planet we're on before we take ourselves out past the point of no return, because we still have so much to learn here. And it just boggles my imagination that we spend all this money on going into other planets and doing other things instead of, number one, taking care of the people that are here on this planet, feeding the hungry, curing the sick, making sure the homeless have homes and they're warm. And in my opinion, there should not be anywhere on this great big world of ours a homeless person or a child that goes to school hungry or thirsty. Let's take care of our own first, whether you're in the United States, Canada, South America, Europe, wherever. People are people. And when you look at the big scheme of things, we're all on the third planet from the sun. And to this very day, we don't know if we're alone or not.
Well, so true. These things that you discuss bring a greater importance to really mankind in general. Mm-hmm. when we look at, hey, you know what? We've got a lot of needs here.
Yeah.
Not that, exploration in space, and to consider all the different possibilities that are out there. Mm-hmm. To be limited-minded is I just think that wherever we have an opportunity to learn and get a new viewpoint, like you said from the beginning, as you get all those religious experiences, it gives us the opportunity. And what I think too is interesting, it's kind of like when I see a lot of different art, new buildings or a new bridge. I learn from something that might be a different angle that I never thought before. And even from my background, if whatever I choose to believe, mm-hmm. right, wrong, or indifferent, that was my choice. And everybody's got their own choices. And the thing is that when somebody explains something and all of a sudden, wow, that is really cool, I never thought of it that way. And then all of a sudden it takes something of your own personal insight and it expands your own way of thinking and being open-minded. And I think that part of personal growth is a key to being resilient, as we're talking about, in stress, versus somebody who's going to be really narrow in their thinking. And I just don't see that as a fundamental truth that is really going to allow you to reach your potential.
Rich, do we really need to be resilient to overcome stressful situations?
I think it's just a fundamental truth that, yes, we do. We need to be able to bounce back. Mm-hmm. Call it what you will, having a strong spine in the backbone. We want to be able to take on situations. Everybody in this world, what it is in your job, school, we're going to face challenges. Now, however you want to wrap it up and show it up in a stress, but I know I've got two teenage kids. They're juniors and senior in high school, and they face stress with their exams as we're coming up. It's work, it's marriage, it's life. And so the point that I really think that the thing is that as we can develop a skill set with that to take on stress, we're going to be able to then be more able to succeed in the things we're desiring in our lives versus caving in to stress and caving into opportunities that we look at challenges, but really are opportunities for us to be bigger and better than we ever thought.
I've got about a minute and 30 seconds before I have to take my news break at the bottom of the hour, Rich. But do you think that the amount of data that we are inundated with 7/24, 365 from outside sources, the news sources, the different media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, and all this instant communication, is this adding to our stress as well?
In some ways it can be, Rob. I think sometimes, especially when we're trying to decide, I know my kids are pretty sharp with it as far as the younger generation because there's so much information. I think one stress angle is this information actually true or not?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is part of it. And so there's just so much out there that you read something. I don't know about you, lately here in the United States, there'd be like some famous actor and said they passed away, and then you click it, and it's actually a way to get a virus into your phone. So, we're in a different time, different challenges. Temptation is the old tool of it, but we face new things in this era.
Rich, please stand by. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour for the news. X-Zone Nation, Rich Wessenberg is our special guest. And Rich is the author of, all right, have your pencils, paper, Treasures of the Believing Heart. And his website is treasuresofthebelievingheart.tateauthor.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and Rich and I will be back on the other side of this break with the news as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.